All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving into some really unique territory.
Oh, I like where this is going.
We're talking Maat Magick.
Sounds intense.
It is, it is. Our source material for this deep dive is this PDF titled Macedonian Lectures Soror Nema.pdf. And yeah,
Well, the name alone kind of grabs you, right?
totally, yeah. Like we're about to unlock some ancient secrets or something.
Right. It definitely makes you curious. And, from what I've read so far, the lectures themselves definitely live up to that sense of mystery. They're full of these really bold claims and just intriguing ideas.
Totally. So like for someone who's, never heard of this before, what is Maat Magick? What's the elevator pitch?
So, in a nutshell, it's basically about harnessing your willpower, like really focused intention, to actually cause changes in the world around you. And it draws heavily on, like, ancient Egyptian ideas about truth and balance, specifically this concept of Maat.
Right, right. Okay, so it's like more than just like thinking positive thoughts. It's about like actually using your will to shape reality.
Exactly. Maat, in ancient Egyptian belief, represents this, like, cosmic order, this truth, this justice. And Maat Magick basically gives you a framework for, like, actively working with that force, through very specific actions and rituals.
Okay, now this is where it gets really wild for me. So they actually say that like through these practices, humans can potentially evolve into a whole new species.
Yeah, they do. It's pretty far out there.
Right. They call them Homo veritas or double consciousness humans, which
Yeah, it's like straight out of science fiction.
I know it's super sci-fi, but like how is that even possible? What do they think is going to make this happen?
Well, they claim that these practices, like, actually activate dormant genes within us. Like, we have this potential already encoded in our DNA, and that through these specific techniques, we can kind of unlock it.
Whoa, okay. And some of those techniques include like working with chakras, right? And then there's this whole thing about sex magic.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the more controversial and often misunderstood aspects of magic.
For sure. So when we say sex magic, what do they actually mean?
It's definitely not about just, like, physical pleasure. In this system, it's about harnessing the energy that's created through sexual practices and then channeling it, like, very intentionally towards your goals.
So like towards activating those genes or other things?
Exactly. It's about, like, recognizing that creation itself, on a physical and energetic level, is this really powerful act, and then learning to wield that power consciously.
So it's more about like focused intention and energy work than anything else.
Exactly, yeah. Whether or not you agree with that approach is, a whole other conversation, but that's definitely a key part of how they see it.
Okay, so we've got ancient Egyptian concepts, we've got human evolution, we've got sex magic. What other intriguing stuff did you find in these lectures?
Well, one thing that I thought was really interesting was how they place Maat Magick within this, like, bigger historical framework of magical practices. They talk about, aeons.
Aeons?
Yeah, like eras, of magical thought. And they actually claim that white magic is the system for our current era.
Oh, wow. So like they're saying that this is like the next evolution in how we understand and practice magic.
Yeah, basically, they even connect it to Aleister Crowley.
Oh, wow, Crowley. Okay, yeah, so we're getting into like some serious 20th century occultism here.
Exactly. His philosophy of Thelema, do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. That emphasis on individual will, that's definitely an influence on Maat Magick.
Interesting. But it's not just like do whatever you want, right? There's definitely this emphasis on aligning your will with something bigger, some kind of higher purpose.
For sure. And that's where this concept of Makeru comes in, which means true voice in ancient Egyptian.
True voice. Okay.
Yeah, they say that each of us has this, like, inner voice, right? This source of truth and power that can guide us to, fulfilling our potential and enacting change in the world.
Okay, so finding and expressing your true voice is like key to practicing Maat Magick effectively.
Exactly.
Got it. But like how do you actually tap into that? It all sounds a little abstract to me.
Well, they actually provide some pretty specific methods for doing just that.
Okay.
They point to the Vishuddha chakra, which is located in the throat area, as the energy center associated with this true voice. And they give, like, specific meditations and practices designed to activate and strengthen this chakra.
Oh, interesting. So it's like you can actually train yourself to access this inner source of wisdom and power.
That's what they claim.
That's pretty wild. And it's not just about like personal transformation, right? They're talking about transforming like all of humanity.
Yeah, they have this really grand vision for what meat magic can do on a larger scale.
Wow. Okay, so what does that transformation actually look like? Like, what are they hoping to achieve?
That's a question we'll have to explore further as we dive deeper into these lectures. But, one thing's for sure, meat magic presents a very different perspective on what it means to be human.
Yeah, definitely. On that note, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be diving even deeper into the world of meat magic. Stay tuned.
One thing that really struck me about all this is that they actually acknowledge that these teachings could be used for, not so great purposes.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it seems like a lot of power.
Right, like it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
It makes you wonder, like, what kind of ethical guidelines do they even have?
Well, they do talk about safeguards and stuff, but they don't really get into specifics.
Yeah.
But they do emphasize that self-knowledge is, like, really important, before you even attempt any of this stuff.
Okay, so like knowing yourself, knowing your motivations.
Yeah, like your strengths, your weaknesses, all that.
So are they saying that like diving into this without that could actually be dangerous?
Well, it's not like dangerous in a, spooky movie kind of way.
Right.
It's more like you could end up amplifying, negative patterns in your life or acting from a place of ego instead of understanding.
Okay, yeah. So it's like giving someone a loaded weapon without teaching them how to use it safely.
Exactly. It's a good analogy. Like this isn't just some, fluffy self-help stuff.
Right, there's a real responsibility that comes with it.
And that's where, the idea of balance comes in, which is so central to meat magic.
Balance, right?
Yeah, like recognizing that we all have, light and shadow within us, and that true mastery is about integrating those, not denying them.
Okay, so now I want to talk about something else that really caught my eye. The forgotten ones. What are those all about?
Oh, yeah, those are interesting.
They describe them as like these primal urges that drive us, right?
Yeah, like hunger, sex, the need to communicate, even the search for, meaning or the divine.
So basically like our most basic instincts.
Yeah, you could say that. And what's cool is how they connect those urges to the chakras.
Okay, so like each urge has a corresponding energy center.
Exactly. For example, they link the need for communication to the Vishuddha chakra, the one in the throat.
Oh, right. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, so they're saying that understanding those primal urges and how they relate to our energy system is like part of mastering ourselves.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. The self-knowledge, the understanding of our urges, the chakras, and then like ultimately expressing our true voice. It's like a whole system for like unlocking our potential.
Yeah, you got it. And that brings us to one of their boldest claims. We already have the genetic material to evolve into this new species, Homo veritas.
Wait, so they're saying we could evolve right now, like not in some distant future?
That's what they suggest. They even have a ritual for activating these beings.
A ritual? What does that even involve?
Well, it involves visualizing the DNA double helix and like directing energy towards it.
Hold on, a ritual to change our DNA. Isn't that getting a little, far-fetched?
Well, it definitely challenges, conventional science.
Right.
But, whether you believe it or not, it speaks to that core principle of meat magic that intention and willpower can create real change.
Okay, so even if you don't buy into all of it, there's still something to be said for the power of belief.
Exactly. And, it brings us to one of the most challenging parts of all this, the idea that reality as we see it is basically an illusion.
Okay, yeah, now that one's a little hard to wrap my head around.
Right.
I mean, if everything's an illusion, then do our actions even matter? What's the point of, striving for anything?
That's a tough question, and honestly, Made Magic doesn't really give a simple answer.
Hmm.
They acknowledge the illusion, but they also stress that we can use our will to shape that illusion, to create a reality that aligns with our true voice.
So it's like we're not denying the illusion, we're just recognizing that we can influence it.
Right, like think of it as, even in a dream, our choices still matter. They shape our experience.
Okay, so we're like conscious dreamers.
Exactly, we can choose to actively participate in creating the reality we want.
Yeah, that makes sense. When this all ties into the concept of God hunger, right, which they linked to the Sahasrara chakra.
You got it, the crown chakra.
Okay, so what is God hunger exactly?
They describe it as this primal urge to connect with something greater than ourselves, to find meaning and purpose beyond just the everyday stuff.
So like that spiritual yearning that a lot of people feel?
Exactly, that search for meaning, for connection.
Okay, so they're saying this urge is something to be explored, not suppressed.
Right, and that activating the Sahasrara chakra is key to like accessing those higher realms of experience.
Interesting. It seems like they're pulling from a lot of different spiritual traditions.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a blend of ancient wisdom and modern esoteric thought.
So they're not just saying this is the one true path. They're kind of drawing from different sources.
Exactly. And they actually critique organized religion quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they say that true knowledge of the divine comes from direct experience, not just blind faith.
So it's more about forging your own path.
Exactly. Becoming your own spiritual seeker.
That makes sense. But it's interesting because it's a very individualistic approach, yet they also talk about transforming all of humanity.
Right. It's kind of a paradox.
Yeah, like how do those two ideas even work together?
Yeah, it's like this idea that individual empowerment can actually lead to collective transformation.
Right, like each of us reaching our full potential somehow contributes to the evolution of the whole species.
Exactly. Maat Magick sees individual transformation as like not an isolated thing, but as part of a larger evolutionary process.
So it's not about like forcing everyone into some predefined mold of what humanity should be, but about each person kind of becoming their own catalyst for change.
Exactly. Yeah. And then those changes collectively lead to something new,
I like that.
hopefully better.
Yeah. As we've been talking about all this, it's amazing to me how they connect all these different ideas.
Hmm.
Ancient Egyptian concepts, modern science, esoteric practices, even like social commentary. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a real mix, and I think that's what makes it so compelling. It doesn't shy away from complexity.
Totally, yeah. Speaking of complexity, I have to bring up this one concept that really got me thinking. The idea that our flaws, our so-called trash genes, might actually hold the key to our next evolutionary leap.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Right. It's like what we see as weaknesses might actually be hidden strengths.
It's a pretty radical idea, and it really challenges how we usually think about perfection and imperfection.
Yeah, it's like instead of trying to get rid of our flaws, we should be trying to understand them, maybe even embrace them.
Exactly. Maat Magick is all about embracing our wholeness, not just the parts we like.
I love that. It's so much more empowering than just trying to fit into some predefined box of what's good or bad.
Totally. It's about recognizing that true evolution comes from expressing our authentic selves, even the messy parts.
This has been such a wild ride. I mean, we've covered some really deep stuff today, and I have to say I'm still processing it all.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
But I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is that Maat Magick offers this really unique perspective on human potential.
Hmm.
It makes you think differently about who we are, where we're going, and the role we play in shaping the future.
And it's really just the beginning.
Right. There's always more to explore.
Definitely. And who knows, maybe some of our listeners will feel inspired to dive into these lectures themselves and see what they discover.
I hope so. So, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive, but before we go, I want to leave everyone with one final thought.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The lecture suggests that our flaws, our so-called trash genes, might actually be hidden potential waiting to be unlocked. What if our imperfections are actually the key to our next evolutionary stage? Something to think about.
It's a powerful idea, for sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Maat Magick.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep diving deep. Until next time.